Have you ever thought that a large part of the food we eat in the world could be under the control of only a few giant companies? When you enter the market, you see hundreds of different brands, thousands of different packages, and an endless pool of options on the shelves. But are all these brands really different from each other? Or is there one of the world's largest and invisible networks behind the shelves that they never want you to see? Are the things we think we choose actually being chosen for us? Today, we illuminate the dark and complex path that the food on your plate takes until it reaches you. Are you ready to find out who feeds the world and who is really in control? To understand the global food monopoly, we first need to look at how the system works in a very simple way. The food chain consists of 4 basic steps. The first step is agriculture, that is, the farmers who plant the soil. The second step is processing, that is, the transformation of the product coming from that field into packaged food in factories. The third step is the logistics and distribution network, and the fourth step is the retail markets where you buy the product from the shelf. Many of us think that the real owner of the food is the farmer in the field. But this is a very big misconception. In the modern world, the greatest power is not in production, but in the processing and distribution phase. No matter how independent a small farmer on the other side of the world thinks he is in his own field, he eventually has to enter the factories and distribution systems of those giant companies in order to sell his product. Those who set up the system set the rules, and the farmer turns into just a worker of that system. At this point, we come to that famous legend that constantly circulates on the internet and that everyone believes. If you look at the videos and forums on the internet, they say that only 3 companies manage all the food in the world. In these stories, the names Nestle, Cargill, and PepsiCo are usually mentioned. The idea that these 3 giants control everything sounds scary and attractive. But this is a legend. The real situation is much more organized and much larger than the legend. The world food system is incredibly concentrated under the control of not just 3, but about 10 to 15 giant companies. We should also add names such as the meat giant Tyson Foods, the agricultural empire ADM, Unilever, which is in every home, and the chocolate giant Mondelez to this list. In other words, the statement that 3 companies rule the world is a mathematically incorrect simplification. But the fact that the food system is concentrated in the hands of a handful of giants is an extremely chilling truth. Let's go deeper into the matter and go under the ground, where the real control begins. The food chain does not start at the market, but at the seed. Today, the commercial seed market and agricultural pesticides in the world are in the hands of only a few chemical and agricultural giants. Giant companies like Bayer, Corteva, and Syngenta are the absolute masters of this market. When you look from the outside, you see a free farmer with a field. But that farmer has to buy the seed from these companies. He also has to buy the special fertilizer and pesticide necessary to grow that genetically modified seed from the same companies. And finally, he sells the product he harvests back to the suppliers of this large system. The farmer is not actually the owner of the field, but has become a subscriber to a closed ecosystem established by giant companies. The real chain of power starts right here, before that seed hits the ground. The picture does not change when we move from plants to livestock. Especially in the United States and in the world, a very large part of the meat sector is in the hands of giants like JBS, Tyson Foods, and Cargill. These structures, called the Big Four, form the heart of the meat industry. You may think that the meat you buy from your butcher is local, but the production of the feed eaten by the animal from which that meat comes, the slaughterhouse processes, and the pricing are completely under the control of these giants. These companies are so large that they can directly affect meat prices in the market and direct global meat production according to their own interests. Millions of small producers actually have to bow to the pricing policy of these few massive slaughterhouses. Now let's go back to that market aisle. While walking through the shelves, you see hundreds of different brands. Different colors, different logos, different names. This makes you feel that you have the freedom to choose, that you choose the best among different competing companies. We call this an illusion, because many of those different brands on the shelves belong to the same parent companies behind the scenes. For example, Nestle does not only make coffee. It is the owner of hundreds of sub-brands, from baby food to pet food, from bottled water to ice cream. Unilever produces both the ice cream you eat and the detergent you wash your clothes with. PepsiCo does not only sell carbonated drinks, it is the owner of almost the entire massive chips and snacks section of the market. The message presented to you is very clear. It seems like there are many options, but in fact, the number of owners where that money goes does not exceed the fingers of one hand. The diversity on the shelves is a very colorful blanket covering the monopoly. All these things I have told you may sound like a dystopian movie. So is this situation really dangerous? We should look at this objectively. First, let's talk about the risks. The fact that all food is in the hands of a few companies means that the possibility of price manipulation is very high. It means that small producers and peasants cannot compete with these giants and disappear. It is the formation of a uniform food system where the whole world eats the same type of wheat and the same type of corn. And most importantly, as we saw in the pandemic, it is the risk of these massive supply chains breaking at once during moments of global crisis and leaving the shelves empty. So are there no advantages at all? Of course there are. 8 billion people live in the world. They set up this system because efficiency reached incredible proportions. Thanks to global distribution networks, you can eat a fruit from the other side of the world very cheaply in the middle of winter. The only current way to feed billions of people cheaply is the industrial-type production system established by these giant companies. So let's come to the main question. If 3 people do not rule the world, who is in real control? Here is the shocking truth. In the food system, there is no single man or a single center sitting in a dark room deciding everything. What we are facing is a massive network where giant companies, agricultural policies of states, global trade agreements, and the financial system on Wall Street are intertwined. It is a network. It is a perfect system consisting of thousands of invisible hands, not just one hand. Companies want to make a profit, states want to feed their people cheaply, and banks provide credit to this system. This complex web of interests is the real power that determines the price and quality of the food we eat today. So why do people still stubbornly want to believe that 3 companies rule the world? Because the human brain does not like complexity, gray areas, and massive systems. For the human brain, it is much easier to believe in a conspiracy theory where there are only a few bad guys behind everything than to try to understand international trade laws and supply chains. Saying that 3 companies rule the world is a simplification and it comforts people. But the fact that the food system is dangerously concentrated in the hands of very few companies is a concrete problem that should be taken even more seriously than those conspiracy theories. How much longer can the world's food system carry the burden of this concentration? Can power be redistributed in the future? Technology is slowly changing the rules of the game. Lab-grown artificial meats can shake the giants in animal agriculture. Massive vertical farming towers established in the middle of cities can reduce dependence on the field and logistics. The trend of people returning to local production and organic farms is growing. Even thanks to blockchain technology, a transparent system is being built where you can track which field and under what conditions the apple you eat came from, down to the second. Can technology take power from the giants and give it back to the local people? Time will tell. As we exit this food maze, there is one thing we need to understand. Perhaps the main issue is not how many companies feed the world. Perhaps the main issue is how honest, how fair, and how transparent this massive system that has been established is. As long as we, as consumers, do not question who we give the money to, that colorful illusion on the shelves will continue. Now go to your kitchen and open your cupboard. Look carefully at the small print on those packages. And ask yourself this question. Do you really know what you are eating today? Share your own thoughts with me in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to continue chasing the truths.